This
that,
conference will now be recorded.
Okay.
but I know that Laura, I wish I could tell you the exact interest rate we're paying, but it's very high, and
Okay.
yeah, it's
A
Okay.
lot
So
higher than our
we
checking account.
just so
right.
that you know, I've had to look into this for other organizations
Yeah.
recently, and you can get for 3-month CD 4.2, for 6 month you can get 4.4, and if you go 12 or 16 months you can get 4.6, and that's just within the last 2 weeks. So I'm just going to recommend that we look at what is it that we get, and it would be a shame if we couldn't take advantage of something that was like a 3, 6, or 9-month kind of
Yeah,
Right.
CD, because
yeah.
it would
My
give us more
yeah,
income.
that's a good point. We'll do the research. My gut tells me that that's a no. I
Right.
don't think governments are allowed to put their cash for cash management into higher interest, higher risk accounts. That's why there is this thing called MMDT. But we'll do the research. Absolutely, that's a
Right.
great question. We'll get you an answer. We'll
Well,
do it by email. And
just so that you know that CDs, I mean, I do this, and we have fiduciary, in reference to the funds, and CDs are no risk. They're like a money market. There's
I
no risk
understand that,
involved.
but there are
Okay.
great rules about government investing. May I ask you, Linda? I was leading up to a question. Do the organizations you're looking for, doing research for, are they nonprofits or are they government entities?
They're not government, but they're not for profit.
Okay, which is different animals. Okay, so we will ask. Definitely we will ask. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Laura.
Okay, very good. Any other questions of Linda? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the cash schedule as presented, subject to audit.
So moved.
Okay, Laura moved it, and do I have a second?
Jeff Tillotson will second it. Thank you, guy.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay, I will, if there's no other comments, I'll call the roll. Amanda Reed,
Aye.
Jeff Tillotson,
Aye.
Guy Corpusero, the chair votes aye. Jessica DeRoy, Kyle Nartowitz,
Aye.
Laura Schifrin,
Aye.
Mary Jo Bohart,
Aye.
Peter Cunningham,
Cunningham, aye.
Roger Hoyt,
Aye.
and Stacy Donahue,
Aye.
and I think it's Veronica Kell. I see you're muted, Veronica.
I am here, yes, but I am not a contributing member, I don't believe, for Townsend.
Oh, you're not, or do you have another member here?
Laura Schifrin.
Okay, then I won't call on you the next time. Thank
Okay,
you very
thank you.
much. So the cash schedule is accepted, subject to audit unanimously. Next item on the agenda is guest announcement. And the only guest I think here is George Cahill. Do you have any announcement, George?
No, Mr. Chairman, I don't have any announcement at this time. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you, George. Next item on the agenda is administrative matters. 5.1, FY23 budget update and FY24 budget first look. This is for information only, so this is a lead to you, Glenn, I think.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. You're going to notice a little difference in the view tonight. You can see everybody. You can't see a document. We're having a little technical difficulty with GoToMeeting tonight, so we're unable to throw the handout up on the screen. So just a point of information, if you want to follow along in the handout tonight, just go to the mrpc.org website. On the upper left-hand corner of the window, click on February 9th, 2023 Commission meeting. Click on that, and then just click the handouts at the very bottom. Scroll all the way down. Just click the handouts for the tonight's meeting, and just pull up the handout itself. Okay. what I'm going to do is summarize what's here. I'm going to give everybody about a count of 15, 20 seconds. Let you pull that up. And very quickly, so as you navigate there, or you're already there, or you're getting there, we are under section 5.1, our admin matters. I've got about 6 points. I'm going to make each one in about 2 to 3 minutes. We're going to get through this pretty darn quickly. So under 5.1, the first look by state statute, we have to give a revenue update for the upcoming fiscal year. So that's the third point that I'm going to make. The first 2 points I'm going to make are about the FY23 budget that we adopted in June of 22, all right? And then the FY23 budget as it looks today, we have a working budget, all right? And before we get to the 24. So what I usually say, I say every year when we adopt a budget, look, we have about projected revenue. Back in June, we had projected revenue of about $1.5 million. We have projected expenses of about $1.8 million, and there was a differential there of a projected deficit of about 16.9%. So anything under 20%, you can get through the year as long as you're diligent and we all work together. Okay, fine. So, and the projected overhead rate for the year back then, for the year we're in, was about 133%, rounding off. Right now, about 7 and a months and a week into the year, our revenue went from $1.5 million to about $1.765 million, okay? Projected expenses are about 4,000 less than that, about $1.751 million, all right? So our surplus or deficit, we have a very slight surplus right now of 0.8%, meaning it's about 0.8% or 1% rounding off. Right now, our projected overhead rate is about 1.32, very close to what we projected at about 7 months ago, 7 months in a week. Having said that, what that basically means is that we're doing okay. We're getting the money in, and you know what I'm going to say here is that this is no small task, or you know the staff work very hard to bring money in, and you know they filled a deficit projected 7 months ago of $300,000, and they brought in money, and they're doing wonderful. They're going gangbusters. In part because of, in huge part, to their due diligence, and they're going after getting contracts. There are more contracts and more funds available for a lot of reasons. Local communities keep looking to us to hire us, not as much as they did when COVID started 2 years ago, but they're still looking for us for help. The federal government is still printing money in, you know, this is CARES money and some old ARPA money, and there's the new bipartisan infrastructure law or bill, BIL. And for the future, I'll end by saying that the projected budget for next year is going to be about 2.3 million, and that's a big jump from 1.76 million. Okay, and we're looking at about a surplus right now, which is going to change 50,000 times between tonight and June of 23 when we adopt the 24 budget. So right now I'm looking at about a deficit of about 5% and an overhead rate of about 130%, which is very similar to the 132 we're in now. So the gist is that we have reduced our deficit 7 months into this current year's budget, that you're going to hear more later from Karen and Brad, if he's here. If he's not, I'm going to pinch hit on something. And, you know, Brad's department and Karen's department are bringing in more revenue, and this is a very, very good thing. So that, Mr. Chairman, that really pretty much takes care of 5.1, unless there are any questions.
Don't hear any. Go on, Glenn, please.
I'll keep going. Thank you. So we're into 5.2. It says MRPC and MEC Inc. Records preservation, digitization of documents, information only. So Holly and I met with representatives from RICO about 3 or 4 times online, and once or twice in person. And then, hang on, Holly's texting me that Roger has a question. So I'm going to pause. Thank you, Holly. Mr. Hoyt, you have a question, sir?
Yes, my question was, so next year, how are you going to spend that much money if we're going up $700,000 in expenses?
Yeah. Here's the gist. There's a boatload of money coming in for a 2-year project that theoretically will start, let's say, sometime in the next 90 to 120 days. Let's say it starts, it's a transportation gig, and we will outsource the vast majority of that project to a consultant or consultants, okay? As opposed to ramping up with a bunch of W-2s and then 2 years later laying off a bunch of W-2s. So in short, just a few words, that's what we're going to do, Roger. It would be very much analogous to what we do with the US EPA brownfields grants that we get. We usually get about 300,000 for those, but that 300,000, 90% of that gets outsourced to a consulting firm, and we only keep about 10% of that for our administrative costs.
All right. Thank you, Glenn.
No problem. No problem. Thank you. I should have said that. Thanks for asking. Holly, and Holly, please text me because when I'm reading now I'm off screen and I can't see people. So I got to go over to the link. Thank you. 5.2. So we met with a consultant, Rico. What we're doing is we're building a budget to see how much it would cost to scan basically every document we've got in paper in about 40 bankers boxes of plans that go back to the 70s, of financial records, of which there are probably 20 bankers boxes to 25 bankers boxes, probably out of the 40-ish that we have. Now that we have, technically I've got a written quote, but to me it's building a budget. It's about $22,000 to do this. And now what I want to do is now I want to go out and do procurement and issue a request for quotes from a variety of companies that do digitization for creating searchable PDFs of documents. So that will be done basically by this spring. Ideally, I guess folks in a perfect world will take the procurement, we'll look at the numbers, probably fold that into the next year's budget. We're getting a boatload of cash to do planning. That means we'll have more money for overhead expenses, and we could do this as a one-time capital cost. So that's where I'm heading on that project. Now I'm back in the meeting. I'm back in the Hollywood Square, so I can see everybody. And if there's a question, please let me know. And if not, Mr. Chairman, I'll keep going.
Okay,
Holly's
very good. Please do.
Okay, Holly's going to keep me honest, and so is Guy. The next item is 5.3 in the Neshoba Valley Chamber of Commerce Executive Roundtable Program, information only. So we met January 25th. We discussed the difficulty of hiring workers and retaining talent in a tight labor market. The next meeting is each one of the people in the CEO Roundtable host the meeting. I'll be hosting Wednesday, February 22nd. So that's it. Not sure what I'm going to talk about yet, but I'm sure I'm going to come up with something. So that's kind of boring for all of you. I know it. 5.4, status of request for proposals for a grant writing consultant. I have information and possible action. So I do have a request tonight to engage a consulting firm. Issued procurement, the date's there and on December 12th for an initial deadline of January 16th. I extended it to February 6th because I wasn't getting a lot of bites on the worm on the end of the fishing pole. Received a proposal from Dexterity Management, read their proposal early through this week. They delivered it either on the 3rd Friday or on the 6th on Monday, but excellent firm. There's some numbers there. They charge from $75 to $150 an hour for app preparation services. The blended hourly rate's about $115. If you're following along in the handout, that's on page 4. On page 5 is a snapshot of their cost proposal. So there are a lot of details in there. Quite frankly, their costs aren't that far off from our costs to deliver services. Now it's private sector, so it's slightly higher, but realistically, not by a heck of a lot. Looks like a good firm. Got a lot of horsepower in writing. I like their sample projects that they have, sample writing samples that they provided. Now I'm going to the next page. I'm at the top of page 6 for those of you following along at home. So I'm recommending on the top of the next page that we hire Dexterity Management for a grant writing consultant firm to augment our services to our communities. That's item number 1. Item 2, use up to $50,000 in cash appropriated from the Mass Municipal Depository Trust account. So I asked you a few months ago to shift that over and make it available. And or the district local technical assistance augmentation funds as needed for grant proposal preparation services. And we'll have a contract till June 30. Folks, we're not going to spend $50,000 by June 30th. That's not going to happen. But this is a test to get them going. Spring is a grant writing season. Fall is a grant writing season. And I'd like to get these people on board to have them start to get their feet wet and work with us. So I'm recommending the hiring of June 30th as advertised. And it's possible we'll need grant writing assistance from an outside firm in FY24. So if this experiment works fairly well, I hope it will, then we'll issue another RFP in the spring or summer of this year for the upcoming fiscal year. Why did I do this? For those of you that weren't in that meeting, I did this to supplement our existing planners who in the planning world, from the job interview through the job, you're always asked, can you do planning and can you write grants also? Well, you know what, folks? It's really a bear to do both. And we have funding, especially under the DLTA augmentation grant, to hire grant writing and get a lot done. And there are a shed load of grants out there that there's so many, we just can't go after them. So it's about building capacity. Mr. Chairman, the resolution is as follows. Be it resolved that the MRPC accepts the Executive Director's recommendation to hire the firm of Dexterity Management to deliver grant proposal application and submission services to MRPC and its communities through June 30, 2023, and that the funding sources above will be used to pay for this consulting firm. Mr. Chairman, back to you, sir.
Okay, very good. We have the motion. Do we have any questions of Glenn on this? Well, I do. Just one question. You hire this service, and you said that they have depth. Can they look for grants for the member communities? If we go to you and say, I need a grant for this, you will turn it over and say, hey, guys, are we able to get a grant for this or write one for this?
Yeah, part of their proposal, which I was very pleased to see, for those of you who do have the handout up at home, if you go to page 5, it's a little blurry. I apologize when I copy and pasted this in, but there is a line item in the, let me find it real quickly. It's buried in there somewhere. I know I read it. It's about doing research for us, for our communities. And so the short answer, Guy, Mr. Chairman, is yes. They will do research for us as well.
Okay, great. That'll hopefully get some wheels moving in people's heads. Thank you. Okay, let's go back. We have the resolution. Do I have any other questions of Glenn on this, or I would entertain a motion on the resolution? I hear no questions. Do I have a motion approve the resolution?
I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution as presented by the Executive Director.
Thank you, Peter. And do I have a second?
I'll second it, Jeff Tillotson.
Thank you, Jeff. Any questions? Not hearing any, I'll call the roll. Amanda Reed.
Aye.
Okay. Jeff Tillotson.
Aye.
Guy Corbisier, the chair votes aye. Jessica DeRoy.
Aye.
Karen Chapman. No, not Karen. Never mind, Karen. Kyle Nardowitz.
Aye.
Laura Schifrin.
Aye.
Mary Jo Bohart.
Aye.
Peter Cunningham.
Yeah, Cunningham, aye.
Roger Hoyt.
Aye.
And Stacy Donahue.
Aye.
And the resolution is passed unanimously. Okay, Glenn, back to you on 5.5. Oh, or actually, I'll take this if you want. We're going to have, this is 5.5, election of the officers for this year. And it's for information only, as it says. And basically, March each year, we call for participation on the nominating committee. So that'll be at next meeting. So if anybody thinks they'd like to be on the nominating committee, please, who will we speak to on that, Glenn?
Okay, who we speak to is, so let me reread something real quick. So I answered the question correctly, Guy, hang on. So next month, the chairman, you will call for nominations to the nominating committee. So officially in March, you as chairman will say, who wants to be on the nominating committee? And then in April, the commissioners will elect the nominating committee. And tonight you're planting the seed.
Yeah, so, if you think you want to be on it, come to the next meeting and say, me. Doubt it, but, and again, he said April of each year, the nominating committee is elected, and candidates may be considered. So, and I hope people will consider themselves for these positions, because I myself have been in this position for a long while. The vice chair has been there a while. So if somebody young bloods, because we're both in our 70s, uh, please step forward or consider stepping forward. Okay, I guess in June is the vote for the slate of officers, so you won't need to do anything till June. Okay, Glenn, back to you.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate you taking the time on 5.5. So 5.6, other administrative matters. So just as a reminder, and Guy, I want to apologize for filling up your email inbox with so many emails lately, but I'd rather send them, as many to you as possible. So we're getting assaulted with a lot of email by people following various pieces of legislation on the existing open meeting law extension to meet 100% remote through March 31st, and will be extended beyond that. And the gist here is that, I'm assuming, I talked to Senator Ian Goby about a month ago, or 2 weeks ago, and she said, yeah, there's legislation pending, but don't hold your breath. So Ann's a pretty good straight shooter. And the reality is, the staff, and I want to just prep commissioners for. So it's February 9th. We're meeting remotely. We'll meet remotely March 9th, right? But I just want to prepare everybody to meet in person like we did pre-COVID, okay, April 6th, because this current extension of the open meeting law to meet 100% remote we'll go back to what we were doing before, unless the legislature and then the governor's office does something, all right? However, the previous law was, as long as you have a quorum in the room, people can chime in using electronic means, phones, Zoom, whatever, GoToMeeting app. So that's what we were doing before. Now, we weren't doing Zoom, we weren't doing GoToMeeting before. Nobody was zooming in with a little Z versus a big Z. But now we have the technology. We've been through this, and we'll be a lot more comfortable. And we have an OWL camera and yada yada, so we'll be able to do that a lot more efficiently, I think. We will have a couple of bugs, the April 6th meeting, for a few people that want to go to the meeting. You're going to be fine. For the people that wanted to go in through the GoToMeeting app, and then you'll be able to use the GoToMeeting. But we need a minimum of 5 in the room, in the atrium, April 6th until further notice. So that's the gist of 5.6, Mr. Chairman. And related to that, 5.6.2, the last thing I have to say, that I'm going to hand something off to Karen under new contracts. So 5.6.2 is audit review scheduled for March 23rd. A special meeting of the commissioners will be held on the evening of March 23rd, 2023 at 7 p.m. Okay. This will be for the sole purpose of hearing, reviewing, and accepting the FY22 audit report from our CPA role in Lambalot. Now, that'll be a GoToMeeting meeting, and it probably will be the last meeting we have before the April 6th in person. So if I apologize for beating a dead horse on that one, but the last 3 years, we've been sitting at our dining tables doing this, and unless something happens, we'll see everybody back in person on April 6th. Mr. Chairman, about new contracts, unless there are any questions, I don't see any. And I see, thank you very much. Holly and Karen worked it out to put the agenda in the meeting. So 5.6.3. So this is where I'm going to hand off something to Karen. She's going to talk about some new contracts that came in. This goes back to Roger's question, and new funding now that's coming in. That's going to hit us soon, and then through the next couple fiscal years. And then Karen, when you're done, would you throw the microphone back to me? I don't see Brad. So I'll talk about the transportation grant for 30 seconds. Okay, boss? Thanks.
Yep.
Sounds good. Go ahead, Karen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I apologize that I haven't been here for a couple of months, so I just wanted to announce some contracts that have been added to the timesheet. Excuse me. We received a contract from the city of Leominster to help them with their MBTA communities in the amount of $36,000. That contract goes through June 30th of 2024, and they received that through the One Stop Programs Planning Grant. DLTA 16, as you know, we've received that. That's $207,474, and that ends 12/31/2023. We got DLTA augmentation funds, which I'll go over in detail in a little while. That's $138,316, and that contract goes till June 30th, 2024. We just got 3 contracts through Mass Housing Partnership for 3A TA assistance for MBTA communities for Ashburnham in the amount of $16,250, Groton in the amount of $14,175, and Harvard in the amount of $16,250. And those contracts end this June 30th, 2023. So those are some of the new contracts that we've gotten, and that's all I have. Back to you, Glenn, unless anybody has any questions about those.
Oh,
Okay.
not hearing any. Back to you, Glenn.
Thanks a bunch, Karen. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know that Karen's going to have this for the minutes, so when you see the minutes, you're going to be able to read this stuff. So just so you know, Karen's very diligent that way, and God, we love her. So that's great.
Yeah.
Brad and his transportation team put together a grant under Bill, bipartisan infrastructure law, and they've earned the organization a I want to say it's SS4A, but don't worry about the acronyms and the stuff. Basically,
Yes.
It's about developing. Thank you, Karen.
Safe streets for all.
Safe streets for all. Thank you, Karen. The job description for Karen is she's supposed to remember all the jargon, and my job description is ask the department head. So thanks, Karen. I appreciate that. So Safe Streets for All is about creating an action plan to reduce fatalities in a transportation system. That's the gist. $750,000 is going to come to the MRPC. And when we eventually sign the contract, it's a 2-year contract, so it'll be 24 months. I'm guessing from whenever we sign it to obviously 24 months later. We don't have a start date. All we have is please go to this webinar coming up soon and learn more. And then we'll send out, a grant agreement, and then we'll do more orientation, and then we'll get you going. And it's a lot of public informational sessions. It's a lot of public input to create a safer transportation network. And I got to tell you, I'm so thrilled. I'm very happy. I'm very pleased. I'm very proud of the transportation staff because this isn't really their wheelhouse to write grants, but they did. They knocked it out of the park. We received the 3rd highest grant in the state of Massachusetts out of 14 awards, behind the Metropolitan Area Planning Council. They got like $2.5 million, but it's Boston. And then the Southeastern Regional Planning and Economic Development District, which we affectionately call SERPED. So they get those. They get like $2.5 million, and SERPED get about $800,000. And we get $750,000. So I'm just super proud of the staff. Honestly, if you want to give them an extra Christmas card at Christmas, they did a great job. So this is a good problem. But I want to tie it back to Roger's question. Well, what do you do? Why is that budget going up? Why is it going up, $500,000 from one year to the next year? Because they did due diligence. They're bringing in the money. It's a transportation planning project, and we're outsourcing 95% of that. That'll go to a consulting firm or firms or collection to do public outreach and so on and so forth. So it's a wonderful thing. The thing I was starting to say and I forgot was with Route 2 the way it is, built in the 50s to the 70s, designed in the 50s to the 70s, it's really not the safest road in the Commonwealth or in New England. And I'm glad that we'll be able to spend some attention on it for the next 2 years during this grant term. So I imagine we're going to be spending a lot of time finally telling MassDOT, telling them again and again and again, and it's in a plan, you got to make Route 2 safer. And I'm not dismissing other roads and other numbered routes and non-numbered routes. This is about everything, okay? But boy, this is just such an important project. I just can't emphasize that enough. So having said that, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn the mic back to you. Thank you for your time.
Okay, very good. Now going on the schedule here, did you have another resolution coming up here, or from your part, or?
Karen will. Karen's going to have one under her section, which is what you're coming up on, sir.
Oh, okay. Got a little ahead of myself. So planning and development. 6.2. That's your department, Karen. Please take away.
Mr. Chairman, Karen is also pulling double duty as getting the document back on the screen. So if we could
Okay.
indulge her about 30, 60 seconds. And
Sure,
Karen,
I have
thank
no
you.
problem.
As you listen, so thank you, Karen. We'll leave you alone. Do your thing.
Hopefully, that when the legislature comes on the 31st of next month, they will decide to allow hybrid meetings without a quorum being present physically. That's my hopes and dreams.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. Can I ask a newbie
Yes.
question?
Jeff,
Where
go
do
ahead.
the non-hybrid meetings happen? What's the location?
Glenn, you want to tell them?
Is it that bad news? Glenn's got to give it.
No, it's great.
No,
Great
no.
best location.
No. Okay, so 464 Abbott Avenue, Leominster, Massachusetts, which is the MRPC's
So
office.
it's at the MRPC offices, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yes, Jeff. And
I've
go ahead.
no thank you. I've never been there. I've heard it's a fantastic place from one of the gentlemen here in Air who's been over there a couple times. He thinks you got great
Wonderful.
offices. So
I
thank you.
think once you go there, you'll never want to go anywhere else, Jim.
Yeah.
For me.
Who is the other tenant there? Glenn.
So there are several. We take the commercial building.
The landlord.
Commercial building. The landlord is Trustees of Reservations, or TOR. They rebranded as TOR.
It's the Doyle Center.
It's the Doyle Center. Yep. Yeah,
Got
and they've rebranded. They're getting away from the Doyle Center name, which I don't like, but it's the Doyle Center. Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
We'll all know
absolutely.
with that.
And we meet in the atrium, front door, the big atrium, whatever, 1,000 square feet. We'll pack you in. We have a lot of fun.
Thank you very much.
Oh my goodness. Can you all see that? Can you see that? No, somebody just, what happened?
Not
No,
now.
we did. It went away. It was there for a while, then it went away.
Oh, come on.
It was actually readable, Karen. It's very nice.
Do it again, Karen.
So while Karen's doing that and it's back up
Oh,
on the
got it.
screen, who's ever in control of the buttons at MRPC, don't touch anything. Leave Karen do her thing. All right,
We got it?
All
Got
set.
it.
Everybody can see? Okay. Oh, so last December, I submitted an Economic Development Administration Economic Adjustment Assistance Grant for future industrial lands for long-term economic recovery and resilience. This is the fourth time I think we've applied for this. So we have an action item for, we have to match 50-50 with EDA. No, I can't scroll unless I'm over here. Okay, so I can't see any of you. So if you have questions, you'll have to speak up. The purpose of the grant is to fund a multidisciplined analysis of lands most suitable for business development throughout the entire region, leading to the retention and creation of jobs for inhabitants of the entire region, thus benefiting all communities. For example, industrial lands will not be developed in all communities throughout the region. This is more likely to occur in the more urbanized and some suburban communities rather than in our rural towns. However, the companies that will locate in the more urbanized sections of the region will provide jobs to inhabitants throughout the entire region. This proposal is intended to include a 15-month grant term, ideally from April 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024. EDA requires a dollar-for-dollar match to receive this competitive planning grant. MRPC's executive director recommends the use of the following existing state contract dollars plus a portion of the in-kind salary of the planning and development director, which totals $170,814 and is broken down as follows. Up to $54,692 from two state contracts, planning assistance grant program, providing relevant planning assistance to Ashburnham, Hubbardston, Phillipston, Townsend, and Lunenburg and Shirley. Up to $48,955 from the existing contract between MRPC and the Massachusetts Department of Transportation, where only a portion of the 20% in state matching funds will be used as matching funds for the completion of transit and transportation planning projects related to moving the workforce and goods and services through the region, supporting the regional economy. Up to $50,000 in existing DLTA program funds from the FY23 MRPC's budget, DLTA program year 16 for $25,000, and an additional $25,000 from the FY24 budget, DLTA program year 17 for projects that complement this proposal, i.e. planning assistance to the MBTA communities, downtown zoning, economic development planning in one of our rural communities, and transportation circulation planning, and up to $17,167 of in-kind funding for a portion of the planning and development director's time to manage this planning project. Matching dollars from the planning assistance grants, MassDOT, DHCD will be available during the entire period of performance of the EDA planning grant, and the funds are not conditioned or encumbered in any way that may preclude their use consistent with the requirements of EDA investment assistance. These are requirements of the EDA, and MRPC is in full compliance. The use of LTA funds as matching funds for the filter grant is not recommended at this point. Using these funds would contribute to a small increase in the agency's overhead rate. As a total of $170,814 can be raised by the MRPC in matching funds, the total amount of the grant proposal will be equal to this amount, so the total project cost would be $341,628. And the resolution is, be it resolved that the Montechusett Regional Planning Commission approves of the Executive Director's request to use the funds as detailed above as matching funds against the agency's filter grant proposal to the US EDA.
Okay, thank you, Karen. Any questions of Karen or Glenn in regards to this?
Can I just say one thing?
Please
just
go right
wanna
ahead.
Explain to those who don't know what this is for. We want to evaluate the infrastructure in our region to see where businesses could be moved to the best place to have industrial parks, business parks, such as, that's what we're planning on doing. So I didn't know if that was clear from me reading that. Thank you.
Now, Karen, you will be in-house evaluating the different communities, as I understand it. Can a community basically say, hey, look at our cool area here for industry?
We're going to study all of the communities. I mean, we're going to focus along the Route 2 corridor, but we're going to do all of our communities. Glenn, do you want to add anything?
Well, I guess on that point, the only thing I would add is that, you know, this, like every regional planning program or project or study that we do, you know, we send out letters, emails, communications, have public meetings with every community in the region. So every local official is aware of what we're going to do. So if you're, you know, bluntly in Petersham and Athol out to Air and Harvard, you know, local officials will have different perspectives on, you know, their input, their willingness, their whatever. And, I think every community is going to say something, and we want to make sure we document what every community says. When I say that, you know, I'm going to go right back to the statute. You know, our board of directors is primarily planning boards, and then whoever the mayors and the boards of selectmen and ladies appoint. So we will ask you as our ambassadors to make sure we get input, and that every town has a voice. In reality, I think what's going to happen is that Royalston's going to say something like, and I'm not going to talk for Kyle. He might want to chime in, or Petersham might say, well, we don't have a lot of infrastructure. I don't see us being an industrial park community. But by the way, you know, in Royalston, we have a commercial district, and it's multi-district, and it's multifamily, and so on. So you should at least, you know, you should have a mention in the report about, by the way, we need infrastructure too. So we don't know these things. So we will basically reach out to all communities and ask for your input. So a Townsend will have a different response than a Royalston, than a Petersham, than an Air, than a Harvard, than a Fitchburg, than a Mr. Gardner. And I don't know, a city like Gardner might say, well, we do all of our own planning, but and that's great, that's fine. And we will say, well, do you mind if we just look through it through our eyes, our lenses, a different lens, and say, hey, thanks for the local input. Can we see your reports? What have you learned? So we don't duplicate the wheel. We don't want to reinvent a wheel anywhere. And quite frankly, you can spend $300,000 look for industrial properties in just 3 cities. So it's going to be, it's not going to be really a lot at 3,000 feet. It's going to be 30,000 foot. But at the same time, I want to see us go and do a lot of field walking. I want to see us get out there, bluntly, with some drones. We'll outsource that. We'll get some maps. We'll do some 3D mapping and so on, and make this really a robust plan. This is the kind of plan that's going to last, bluntly, folks, for 25 to 50 years. You don't do this all the time. So we just want to make sure that that we have input from everyone. We do our due diligence, and those words that Karen read, that sentence, one of the sentences I remember writing about. Yeah, you're not going to build an industrial park or a commercial park or a business park in every town. They don't want it. Some do. Hubbardston wants business parks. And I know that because that was one of the first conversations I had with a local official back in 1999 when I was hired. But the reality in Hubbardston, is you don't have municipal water, you don't have municipal sewer, but you have 68, which goes to Route 2. And, you can still do some things. So we'll sift through, and we're going to do our due diligence. So I think that's a really important thing for us to say. So nobody gets left out, everybody gets looked at, and we need all the input that we can gather from our communities. And thank you for the time.
Great, thank you, Glenn. Now, we have Karen put forward the resolution on this, and any more questions before I ask for a
A point of information, not a question.
yes.
May I? So what we do, just so people who've been around with us, commissioners, for a while or might be newer, when a regional planning agency, I'll just pick on us, when MRPC goes after certain federal grants, when you have a dollar for dollar match, we get about 80 or 85,000 bucks a year in municipal assessments. We take some of that money and we leverage that money, but it's a lot easier to take existing contracts you have that are delivering services that are similar and related to this new thing you're going to do over here. So the new thing we're going to do over here is a future industrial lands analysis, right? But we're already doing some housing and transportation and infrastructure and affordable housing analyses that are related to housing the workforce, that relate to the economic development side of looking for industrial land. So we try not to burden our municipal assessments that come into us, because that means, bluntly, writing checks out of our admin side and up on our overhead, right? All right. So we try to use a lot of existing contracts, the in kind from Karen's time. So that is also useful and eligible as in kind. So that's why you'll see these bullets and what Karen described above as from a piece from this grant, a piece from that grant. I should have mentioned that earlier. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Glenn.
Mr.
Excuse me,
Chairman.
Mr. Chair. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, Lara, go ahead first.
Well, Glenn makes a good point, because even what I wanted to ask tonight was about a couple months ago, we talked about doing more regionally. We're a regional association, yet most of the time individual towns are applying for the DLTs for their own purposes, when 2 or 3 communities could be using the exact same information. So it's like, why reinvent the wheel for each one of the towns? Townsend definitely needs some economic growth. We have industrial parcels, we have commercial parcels, we have a lot of things that are not being used. So and I'm sure that we're not the only town. I'm sure that there's a lot of areas, but I don't want us to be left out either, because we're not a Route 2 or a 495 or 68. We've got 119 and 13. With a lot of space that could be used for things that would help grow tax base. So I appreciate this going on, and I realize it's way into the future, but certainly planning is what we're supposed to be doing.
Great, thank you, Laura. Jeff, you had a comment?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Similar to what Laura was saying, and Laura, I hope I don't rain on your parade in any way, shape, or form. one of the questions I had is, Air recently got a director of economic development here in Air, and that person shoulders the risk of the task of figuring out what Air should be doing going forward, and we're all beating them up on a daily basis. But comes to mind as we were talking about transportation. I mean, Glenn, you talk about Route 2 being an old road. Well, I was born next to it, and then they were building it. Literally, you could open my bedroom window and listen to it get built out in the Belmont area. I'm on the Belmont-Arlington line, and my uncle raced bicycles up the old hill where Route 2 now goes down into the city. So I'm very familiar with Route 2 at that end, and I'm familiar with Route 2 at this end, and I'm now working out in Deerfield, so I drive Route 2 across the state almost all the way, 2 or 3 times a week. It's not going to be able to take on a huge amount more of traffic certain times of the day. It's 110%. From a traffic planner standpoint, it's at 110 to 120% capacity for probably 6 or 8 hours a day in certain areas. So one of the questions I had is, as we look at this, 2 questions, and these are thoughts, Karen, and one is, what do we do to enhance regional transportation? And how do we get multimodal transportation to work better along the Route 2 corridor so that towns that do have infrastructure that can't be supported by the roads can actually be supported with an industrial or a commercial style investment? That's one. And then the other side of the coin, as I see it, is what industries or what businesses, or in the case of a business park, you can build a business park that needs to have 1,000 cars coming into it because there's 1,000 jobs in that business park, or you can look for industries that will create the same tax base with fewer employees doing work in more expensive surroundings. Biopharma does that. Biopharma production does that, and things like that. So I'm wondering if there's I would hope at the end of the day, you'd start information like this would be part of the plan. And I don't know if it is or it isn't. And if I'm way out of bounds, by all means, let me down nicely, will you guys? Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
May I say just very quickly that, Jeff, that's exactly the kind of input that we want during the planning process. Those are exactly the kind of questions we want now and before we get the grant, and then we start writing the scope of services, let's say, 2 to 3 to 4 months from now. So we incorporate these questions because we want to answer these questions. There's, as an example, for me, there's a huge choke point at 290, and why the state doesn't widen the bridge over the Nashua River on Route 2 east and westbound by the Starbucks, because I don't go by mile markers, I go by landmarks and Dunkin's and Starbucks and Packies. So that needs to be widened. That's a hell of a choke point. And from 495, to your point, oh my God, from 495 going westbound in the afternoon, it's a virtual parking lot. That's a problem, and it comes and goes. And the better the economy gets, the more of a parking lot it becomes. And these are the kind of questions that personally I'd like to see us ask and get some answers to, and then use this plan as something to bluntly tap the forehead of MassDOT and say, we've got to address the Concord Rotary. We've got to address the choke points. We have these issues, and then they are related to land use. They are related to what types of businesses that we do. So I can see us. Let me find the money, and Karen will help me find the money. But we need I think in this grant we're going to do some market assessment for what kinds of businesses the region, will be having. A lot of old planning documents for regional plans and local plans go back to the 70s and 80s. They say, we're at the center of New England, so we should be the center of warehousing and distribution. Well, folks, that never really happened. And, one Amazon plant coming into Fitchburg that's small isn't like being on Route 128. But we have to look at this holistically. We're just not going to look inside the right-of-way of Route 2 and 68 and 225 and 119 and say, what do we do to the roads? What do we do to the land uses and zoning around them, and how do they interact? So, Jeff, you're ahead of where us because we're bureaucrats and we got to get there. But that's the exact kind of thing we need to fold into the scope of services. And please email those comments to us.
And thank you, Glenn. And honestly, I moved out of living inside of 128 because it's where we are going right now. And I think, honestly, a well thought out strategy will help a lot, because just putting more cars on the roads in people's communities is not going to be well received. And I get off my soapbox.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. I guess you have more for us, Karen? Oh, we have the resolution. I'm sorry, we got distracted. Any other comments? If not, I will ask for a motion to move the resolution.
I'll offer a motion that we approve the resolution as presented.
Oh, thank you, Peter. Do I have a second? Uh,
I'll second it for Peter. Okay.
okay, I got Stacy up on the screen first, so.
Give it to Harvard, please. Give it to Harvard, please.
Yeah,
Yeah, it takes me so long to find my mute button. You need to give it to me because I'm slow on the mute.
well, I'll try to remember that. Okay, any last questions before I call the roll? Okay, we'll start with Amanda Reed.
Aye.
Jeff Tillotson.
Aye.
Guy Corpusale, the chair votes aye. Jessica DeRoy.
Aye.
Carl Nartowitz.
Aye.
Laura Schifrin.
Aye.
Mary Jo Bohart.
Aye.
Peter Cunningham.
Cunningham, aye.
Roger Hoyt.
Roger Hoyt, aye.
And Stacy Donahue.
Aye.
And if that is everybody, if I didn't miss anybody, the resolution is passed unanimously. Okay, do I have any more from you on this, Karen?
Yes, I have some more.
Okay, thought so, DLTA and.
Well,
Go right
6.2.2 grant opportunities. This is a list that one of our planners, Ryan Doherty, puts together every month for me. I'm not going to go over it in detail, but I just want to make sure that you guys see this in the packet every month. And if you want us to help you out with any of these grants or you have questions, just contact us. And especially given the new DLTA augmentation funds that allows us to apply for grants for our communities. Ryan is also, now that we've been doing this for about a year now, he's putting together a master calendar that sort of gives us an idea of all the grants and which months they're coming out, so we can alert everybody way ahead of time and really plan for doing applications for our communities. That's it on that, Jason. Thank you.
Okay,
Question?
thank you. Go ahead.
I just want to love that. Thank you. Thank you for this list.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I've got a question, Karen.
Yes.
Yeah, I see one of those grants has to do with drinking water protection. We have an emerging PFAS issue in town here at our regional high school. And I'm wondering if this is a grant that might be applicable to that, or if not, are there other grants that you're familiar with that might assist communities in addressing PFAS issues?
I don't off the top of my head, and this one is only for purchasing water supply protection land. So if you don't have land around you in the zone 1 and 2 protected, this gives you money to purchase that land. But I will look into that because there's a lot going on with that subject, as you know.
Yeah, there is, and yeah, we have a bit of a crisis with our high school and the drinking water at the high school. So yeah, if there's any information on that or other grant opportunities, it'd be appreciated.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions of Karen? Please continue.
All right, DLTA and DLTA-A.
Hey, Canadian?
It's our big joke. Woo! So this is for regular DLTA program year 16 in response to a first solicitation issued December 15th, 2022. A total of 8 proposals were received for use of DLTA resources from our communities to provide a variety of services. Groton, to assist evaluating the economic, transportation, and related impacts of the Groton Hill Music Center. Hubbardston to assist developing zoning bylaws in our districts to promote agricultural uses and agritourism. Hubbardston assistance compiling completed chapters of the master plan and planning for implementation. Shirley, Sterling, Townsend, and Westminster assistance with MBTA communities. And then Townsend assistance evaluating the town's bylaws and recommending changes in order for the town to become a housing choice community. Scroll, please. And the resolution is, be it resolved that the Montechusett Regional Planning Commission recommends that number 1 through number 8 of the above named project requests for DLTA, if eligible, be conditionally awarded based upon further communication, clarification, negotiation with the applying communities, and approval from the Mass Department of Housing and Community Development. Moreover, all activities and some applications may not be awardable under the DLTA program. MRPC staff reserves the right to negotiate an awardable detailed scope of services and budget amount. MRPC also reserves the right to work with the towns of Shirley, Sterling, Townsend, and Westminster to help them obtain funding from other available resources to complete MBTA 3A TA planning tasks in place of or after the DLTA program. Those requests, do you want me to read the conditions? These are the same conditions that we have every year.
I personally don't think you need to read them, but if anybody would like her to read them, please speak up.
Thank you.
I don't hear anything, Karen, and this is actually another page and a half, so.
You're welcome.
Okay. I think everybody gets the idea, and it is just standard boilerplate stuff in the further department. Do we have any questions of Karen on this one? I'm not hearing anybody. I'll ask for a motion to move the resolution as read.
I
And the
so
department not read. Peter Cunningham, is that a motion?
It was, but I heard someone else making it, so I'm either way's fine.
it was Laura Schifrin. I can
Okay.
take.
I'll second Laura's motion.
Okay.
Okay, very good. Okay, any more questions of Karen on this one? Not hearing any. I will call the roll. Amanda Reed,
Aye.
Jeff Tillotson,
Aye.
Guy Corvusel, the chair votes aye. Jessica DeRoy,
Aye.
Carl Nartowitz,
Aye.
Laura Schifrin,
Aye, sorry, had trouble with the button again.
Betcha. Okay, you voted aye. Mary Jo Bohart,
Aye.
Peter Cunningham,
Yeah, Cunningham, aye.
Roger Hoyt,
Roger Hoyt, aye.
and Stacy Donahue.
Aye.
Okay, so the resolution is passed unanimously, and that brings us down to transit and transportation.
I'm not done, Mr. Chair.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, I'm not done yet.
Oh, the MBTA Communities Technical Assistance. I blew right by that.
I haven't talked about the DLTA.
Oh, okay. Go right ahead then.
So I have these notes in your in the meeting folder are my notes. So just so that you have the information that I'm talking about in the websites that are mentioned here. So DLTA augmentation is extra funds, $138,316 that each RPA was awarded funds to spend on assisting our communities with project prioritization and grant applications. A solicitation for our communities will be sent out next week with proposals due March 7th for the first round and April 4th for the second round. Commissioners will vote at their meetings on March 9th and April 6th to approve projects. DLTA augmentation activities and projects may include, but are not limited to, the following: identification and understanding of top project priorities, research, assessment, and an identification of federal, state, and other funding opportunities, review of grant application guidelines and preparation of applications and/or identification of specialty skills needed, such as specialized technical assessment, engineering, cost-benefit analysis, provision of needed procurement services, and assessment of municipal grant reporting capacity and determination if assistance is needed by the RPA. So I'll be sending that out next week. It's a one-time thing because they must have extra funds at the state. And with regular DLTA, we've never been allowed to do grant applications for our communities. So this will be great. And so that'll be sent out next week. Scroll, please. MBTA communities technical assistance. We're working with most of our communities. We're working with Leominster under a one-stop planning grant, which I mentioned earlier we just got. We're working with Lunenburg under a planning assistance grant, with Ashburnham, Groton, and Harvard under the MHP 3A TA grant. And as you voted already tonight, Shirley, Sterling, Townsend, and Westminster under DLTA. Ashby is applying for a 3A TA in June. And then Air, Fitchburg, and Lancaster are the ones that have not received additional technical assistance. So the options are to apply for in the one-stop program. Expressions of interest open until March 17th. Full applications are now available, and that submittal opens in May and ends June 2nd. We can assist with those applications, and there's the website to apply. You can apply for a planning assistance grants. The RFR for that this year is due out in March, and the application will be due in May. And we can apply. We've applied every year for the past 5 years and have received grants for our communities under this one. MHP 3A TA, their first round of Mass Housing Partnership, their first round of grants has already closed, and those have been awarded. They're going to open the grant, the rolling grant, again in June. So if anybody needs additional technical assistance, that'll be available. And then DLTA, obviously, we just did. Scroll, please. Mass Broadband Institute, Digital Equity. So MRPC is an authorized contractor of MBI to provide digital equity planning for our communities. The goal of the program is to enable municipalities to engage in planning activities related to digital equity and bridging the digital divide. These planning activities will result in strategic documents designed to identify the community's needs, interests, and key assets, and provide a framework that will guide future municipal decision-making and potential investments and activities that will increase access and usage of the internet for the populations most impacted by COVID-19. The three key areas, so this is not going to concentrate on infrastructure. MBI and Mass Tech Collaborative have another program that's identifying infrastructure problems and people who don't have access to the internet. So this particular grant program is looking at internet availability and affordability. So there are programs out there that provide low-cost internet for low-income persons. The second thing is access to devices, to determine if everyone in your community has access to devices, and then if they have the skills to use those devices. So it's looking at, like, for example, seniors who now have to do telehealth or whatever, and they don't have a device, they don't even know how to use the internet. So this is to evaluate all the cohorts in your community to see where there's underserved people, unserved people, and we would do a plan, the digital equity plan, and then do recommendations. And there's other consultants in the wings who are going to take care of the access and the availability and affordability and the digital skills. So Royalston and Phillipston have already applied, and they want to do a regional plan. And we were hoping to get more communities in our region to join in on a regional plan. So you can, I put the website in there. You can apply for this anytime you want. And MBI will give you a list of consultants. Obviously, we'd like you to choose us, but I'll be sending that out again as a reminder. 6.2.6 CPTC conference, March 18th. So Citizen Planner Training Collaborative Spring Conference is back in person at Holy Cross in Worcester on Saturday, March 18th. There will be the traditional training modules for zoning and planning boards for new members, as well as other topics such as MBTA communities, digital equity planning, climate resiliency, housing, etc. Breakfast and lunch will be served. Basically 8 a.m. to 4:30. I've sent out a couple of save the date emails to y'all, so it's a great event. So if you want to get out and get in person and see some people you haven't seen in years, that'll be available. And then
Karen, one quick question on the CPTC. Have you heard when they will be announcing what training modules will be available?
yes,
I know
it
they're
should
not
be.
out yet.
No, they're not out yet, but all of the information was due this past Monday into CPTC, so they should be coming out soon with the registration and all the sessions.
Well, thank you.
And I'll be sending it out as soon as I get it. 6.2.7 planning assistance grants. Like I said before, the RFR is due out in March with the application due in May. We can apply on your behalf. It goes 18 months to 2 years. These are good for open space and recreation plans, housing production plans, master plan chapters, corridor studies, zoning bylaw reviews. I put the website here because you can go on their website and see all the grants that they've given out in the past 5 years and just look at the list and see if anything, hey, we wanted to do that. I was also considering, last year I considered this, but it didn't work out, to do a similar infrastructure study as the EDA one, but do it with housing in mind. So gather all the data of everybody, all the communities, water, sewer, etc., and figure out, could there be any possibility of sharing infrastructure resources? Could we put in a regional treatment plant somewhere? Just studying all of that. So we were hoping to do that in conjunction with the EDA grant. If anybody is interested in joining in on that, please let me know and we can get an application going. And then 6.2.8, I just threw the new contract stuff here. I already read that to you. So any questions on any of that? Sorry, I've extended the meeting tremendously, and I'm sorry.
Well worth it, Karen. Any questions of Karen?
Karen, this is Mary Jo Bohart from Fitchburg. Very brief question on the MBTA technical assistance that your organization is providing to the various communities. Can you speak to the nature of the technical assistance? I guess we here in Fitchburg, we're just trying to wrap our head around what other communities still need to do, because there was a major deadline for compliance, January 31, to be eligible for things like Mass Works and so on. So we were just assuming everybody was already either compliant or going down that path, and yet obviously there's more work to be done. And I was just curious the scope of the kind of TA that you're providing.
Okay, thank you for the question. Yeah, so DLTA last year, we got everybody's action plans in. Like you said, the January 31st deadline, we managed to get everybody's action plans in, and most of them have been accepted. So the next step, the next compliance deadline is actually not till December 31st, 2024 for the commuter rail communities, and 2025 for the adjacent small communities. So the technical assistance from MHP is like a shorter period of time, and you do like 2 or 3 tasks looking at your zoning. Do you already comply with the zoning? Figuring out, well, we don't comply, how are we going to comply? Running the compliance model that the state developed to figure out where these overlay districts are going to be. So there's a lot of work to be done between now and the
So the reason
deadline.
I'm asking is we happen to be a community. We've already updated all our zoning. We're compliant in all those regards. We're also an MHP recipient. And the reason we're going to be tapping into them is for production planning. In other words, it's one thing to have the enabling zoning. It's another to have a plan of how you're going to produce. And so I
Right.
just wondered, is that what some of the other communities are doing?
No, none of our communities are compliant yet. Besides you. You're lucky, Mary Jo.
We happen to have had a smart growth district that we had approved, and we had just gone through a zoning overhaul. So our timing was opportune. It wasn't as much of a heavy lift for us.
That's fantastic. Yeah, everybody else is Air's in pretty good shape. They may already be compliant. We haven't run the
Thank you, Karen.
compliance model.
Thank you, Karen. I was being very quiet, but we got similar to Mary Jo, similar to Fitchburg. We just went through the bylaws the last 5 or 6 years, and we got lucky. We're very, very close.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Does that answer your question, Mary Jo?
It does. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, is that everything from you, Karen?
She's
Yes,
nodding.
sir.
Okay.
Hey, Mr.
Okay,
Chairman?
very good. Now, transit and transportation.
Mr.
I
Chairman?
don't see, yes, Glenn.
Mr. Chairman, we skipped over GIS and we have Jason. So could we
Oh,
go
okay,
back
yeah,
to
I
him?
see Jason.
And,
Yes,
and
okay.
I don't get
then-
it. Why did you skip over GIS? That's so important.
You
no
weren't here, I
comment.
don't think.
So, well, and then, Mr. Chairman, Brad's not here tonight, so you can skip over transit and transportation. And I made the announcement of that large grant award that they got for $750,000. So that's really the takeaway for transportation tonight, unless somebody has questions. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, very good. Jason.
Yeah, first of all, I have to apologize to everybody. I apparently had shut off my brain when I shut off my laptop earlier today at the end of my day. So thank you to Holly for alerting me to the fact that I was missing the meeting, and I'm really sorry that I'm late and that somehow it slipped my mind. I have no updated information for GIS at this time.
Okay, very good. Anybody have any questions of Jason?
I just want to say, Mr. Chair, that despite the fact that he never has anything to say, he's a really important department, and him and Kayla support both transportation and planning and development, and it's a lot of work, and I just want to say thank you.
Well, at least from Karen's perspective, and not a lot from Brad's perspective too, all of that credit should go to Kayla. She's amazing. She deals with difficult people very well, which is why she works very well with Karen. No, I'm just kidding. Kayla is amazing at what she does, and we're very lucky to have her.
I think that was a backwards compliment. Okay, very good. We're skipping over transit transportation unless anybody has questions in regards to that. And Glenn had answered those, but not hearing any. We move on to actually the next to the last item on the agenda, new business. Does anybody have any new business that like to bring before the board? Not hearing any. We move on to 8:15 adjournment. Actually, I will entertain a motion to adjourn, a second, and I will have to call the roll on this instead of just blowing it off. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Peter Cunningham?
Yeah, so moved.
And do I have a second?
I'll second it, Mr. Chair. Jeff Tillotson.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Okay, so I have to call, the motion is to adjourn, and after I've been schooled, I have to call the roll call. Amanda Reed,
Aye.
Jeff Tillotson,
Aye.
Guy Corbett votes aye, Jessica DeRoy,
Aye.
Kyle Nartowitz,
Aye.
Laura Schifrin,
Aye.
Mary Jo Bohart,
Aye.
Peter Cunningham,
Yeah, Cunningham, aye.
Roger Hoyt,
Aye.
and Stacy Donahue.
Aye.
With that, I call the meeting adjourned at 8:27, and thank you very much, everyone.